2025, I'm gonna need a refund because this year sucks already. I just got laid off for basically the second time back to back. If you didn't know, I worked at Twitter and I got laid off when Elon Musk acquired the company. Since then, I've been working at a like a content strategy agency type place as a director of strategy, and I just got laid off yesterday. It's surreal because I definitely didn't want to go through another layoff. Being laid off the first time was one of the most traumatic events that have ever happened to me, especially because it happened so publicly. This time was obviously a little bit different, but the company lost some clients, and now here I am without a job. It's hard not to reevaluate my life choices at this point. I work in tech, and so I'm wondering if that's still what I should be doing.
Let me give y'all a little bit of an update. And I always like to give credit to the content creator, so you'll see that down in the description of the video. But working in tech in the sector versus being a tech worker is two different things. And I talk about this on the Millionaire Morning Show on a regular basis. Make sure y'all tap into the Millionaire Morning Show. And I don't know why people always say I work in tech. That's like me saying I was working in banking. No, I was working in tech, but I was in the banking sector. So we got to be able to separate it. A lot of y'all think that y'all secure just because you work for a technology company. It is much different than saying that you work in tech. No, you work in marketing. And the career path that you chose, and if we just want to be honest, is something that we can replace easily with somebody else that probably doesn't even have a degree. And I don't know if she has a degree or anything like that, because you guys sent me the video. But if we just want to be absolutely transparent, you guys have to be able to segment and understand that just because you work in a particular sector, that does not mean that you have a desirable background, or that you actually have a marketable skill. You see what I'm saying? So I chose to go into a legacy, and this is back when I was in corporate America. I chose to go into a legacy business instead of going into the technology sector to make sure that I would be able to transform that particular industry for that thing that I worked in, which was banking. And I went into the technology sector. A lot of people think that because they work at the call center, or you work as in a marketing department, or you work in content, or you do something like that, that you're automatically in tech. It's a buzzword. It sounds good. It doesn't necessarily translate. Now, if you were a cybersecurity worker, or you were a software engineer, right, back end, or you know some specific programming language, or AI modeling, or cloud infrastructure, then you can say, oh, okay, I'm a tech worker. And so we got to be able to separate the difference when we having these conversations before we deep dive into it.
Hard to feel like secure in a job anymore. It feels like those days are over. So I don't know if I should be in tech anymore or working this corporate life. I love the security of having a stable job, but that hasn't been the case for quite some time for me, because it's just been so unstable in the industry. So I'm considering other options, obviously. I had a wild idea. I think somebody on TikTok said, hey, become an ultrasound tech. That takes like 2 years of schooling and then you're in. And I was like, sounds good to me. But again, I also really enjoyed my job doing marketing, strategy.
Listen, just because you are an expert at what you do does not mean that that's where the industry is going. With artificial intelligence and things becoming easier, you got to continue to update your skills. You got to pivot. I always say have a three level approach. The thing that you're doing to put food on the table today, the thing that you're putting into place to make sure within the next 2 to 5 years you will always have an additional income. And I also believe that people need to have multiple sources of income. This is not something that women are used to. Women are used to, and this is why they've been saying when times were good, we're the most educated, when in reality they were the most enrolled. We are the ones that got all of the degrees, but in what field? You see what I'm saying? You have to go into a recession-proof field. because when things are going great, it seems awesome, like it's going to happen forever. But I will tell you that this is not nothing new. Since the 70s and the 80s and the 60s and the 90s, there has been cyclical times, whether you are a blue collar automotive worker or whether or not you have been in the tech industry or if you are a finance bro. There's ebbs and flows, and that's why you don't want to set your lifestyle up to be aligned with how much you make at that time. You want to set up things to where your assets, you want to have the majority of what you have coming in going into assets while at the same time doing that three level approach. The thing that you have to do to put food on your table today, that don't really matter. Go and get a job, do something that you can do until you do something that you want to do. The second thing is you want to have something in the fire and something in the iron that continues to level you up in skill while at the same time helping you to leverage that to build your own business or going into a completely different field. You shouldn't wait till you get laid off before you go back to school. You understand what I'm saying? When I went into in the early 2000s, when I was going into software engineering, it was a recession proof job. It's the thing that I decided to do once I lost my job at the plant, but I was already going into that field prior to. I just had to finish up school because it was much harder to get into certain jobs once everybody started getting laid off in the 2008 housing market crash because they were able to be pickier about who they wanted to do it. It didn't really matter about skill set. I know a lot of people that decided to go into nursing. I know a lot of guys that are traveling nurses, and it was pretty much a recession proof job, especially during the pandemic. They generated a lot of revenue. A lot of people in cybersecurity, they've never gotten laid off. Or if they have transitioned away from a company, it's much easier for them to find a position once they have some level of experience. I know some people that's in cloud infrastructure. They have no problems getting jobs. I know guys that were in software engineering and they're continuing to transfer into artificial intelligence. They have no problems getting jobs. So a lot of times people say that they're going into tech, and it doesn't really matter. I'm not just saying tech. I'm not just saying corporate America in general, but you really do want to recession proof your skill set. And even if you start to generate a lot of revenue, even if you start your own business, you always have that to fall back on. So when you thinking about going into an industry or even if you're going to school, you want to go into something that you'll be able to have under your belt to where you can generate income for the next 10 to 15 years if you decide to do so.
Working in the digital space, working with tech, it is fast paced and it's very exciting. So I honestly don't know what to do. If you have any advice for me, I would love to friggin' hear it because I'm swirling. This all happened yesterday. So I've been like waffling between panic applying to places and just rotting on the couch. Would love something more constructive to do with my time. But if you have any advice, any tips, any job leads or connections, please let me know. I'm in the Bay Area, remote work, anything. I want to be busy. I'm somebody who likes to do things.
If you only limiting yourself to remote work, then you're definitely going to have a much more difficult time in this environment finding opportunity because a lot of remote workers are being required to go back into the office, which then leads to more people looking for remote work because they've changed their lifestyle to reflect the job that they were doing, not the possibility of having to go back into the office. You got to get outside of that segment. You got to be willing to move. I don't know if she have children. And then again, this is another advantage that men have because men are willing to do whatever it takes. They're willing to go to different locations. They're willing to go into the office. Men that's not lazy. They're not saddled with children or anything like that. And so, you basically got to think like a man when it comes to your business opportunities for you to survive in this market. I believe that in the coming years, probably 4 to 5 years down the road, there's going to be opportunity because the economy is going to be booming and it's going to be so many different opportunities for Americans and people that have the right skill set. As of right now, there's an upending and there's an uncomfortability that comes along with what the changing landscape is going to be, what companies are trying to pivot into, and whether or not they can hire a workforce that can meet the expectations of what they're planning for in the future. But it's not enough to just go into an industry or to say I work in tech or I just got a degree. That's going away. And if you just limit yourself to being a remote worker, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, Teach Henley, 40% off your first order plus 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. Again, I'm going to link back into the content creator in the description. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.